Well, everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey everybody, Cantonese Cat here. I just want to talk about the games and whatnot that's being played here for MSTR, Coinbase, and the miners here real quick. This is MSTR daily chart. You can see how it hit the upper Bollinger Band here on Friday. So the Bollinger Band seems to be expanding here a little bit, but just not expanding enough for price to go up too far. And we gapped up, and what did we do so far? We just came back and kind of closed the gap here. So far it's down like 6.5%. To me, I think that's nothing for MicroStrategy. It's just an extremely volatile stock. If you cannot handle these kind of volatility, you really shouldn't be in MicroStrategy. It's just been doing absolutely nothing for the last 3 months, right? So as far as I can tell, it's forming higher lows and higher highs over the last month or so. There really isn't anything to be too concerned about here with MicroStrategy. In terms of the trend, I do think that this gap up was asking for a correction, and we got that, and there's really nothing scary about it. So I just wanted to kind of point out here, long term is still holding the bottom support band just fine. It's still a bull trend. You still have a decent high volume bullish engulfing candle. It still favors further bullish continuation over time, right? And if you're also looking at the Gann chart here that I have, is basically, let me turn off the volume here, it's basically still holding support here. The Gann horizontal here reclaimed the 1.414 here, and we got rejected at 1.618. I think that's probably where the next level is going to end up gravitating back up towards, is going back up towards the 1.618, right? On top of all that too, if we also look at the Ichimoku here on the weekly, it got pretty close to back testing the Tenkan down here around 364.98, but it got over that. So there are a lot of positives here. MicroStrategies, they're kind of hitting on like a negative 6% day to open. I'm not that scared about it. Coinbase still underneath the Tenkan here on the weekly, but even Coinbase, I'm still very bullish on it. The reason why I'm bullish is you did have a gap up, right? Same thing, we closed the gap so far. Couldn't really expand that much further because it's just simply squeezing. The Bollinger Band is squeezing. It's not expanding enough yet. And you have a bearish engulfing candle here for the day, sure, but it's basically just kind of retracing back to a mean. If you can't push up further, you're going to having some retracement, right? Traders know this, and they basically were just kind of selling the Bollinger Band top over here and trying to tank it down to the mean. That's what they want to do. But the very fact is there's a very nice trend change potentially from like negative sloping here on the daily to a little bit more flat here, right? So I think by the time it ends up retracing back to the 270s down here a little bit further, if it ends up doing that, you're going to find some pretty decent solid grounding here for price to kind of go up moving forward, right? So not anything too bad or scary, again, even though you have like a negative 6% day. If you look at the weekly, nothing has changed. Last week you have a pretty decent bullish engulfing candle. Right now you just have a little bit of a bearish, start to the week here on a Tuesday. Volume really hasn't kicked in yet, but it's not even really making that big of a dent from last week. So I wouldn't be that concerned about over the long term here. And also just the last week we bounced very strongly off of the 0.786, bounced very strongly off of the Gann arc. We're nowhere near it. Do I think let's go back and back test it? Not necessarily. We also bounce off of the support band, right? Very strong concludent zone support. I wouldn't worry about it too much. CleanSpark, I made a post earlier today, basically just sharing with you in terms of what I think would happen. You have the Bollinger Band also squeezing here, kind of like what Coinbase is doing. You have price got rejected here at the upper Bollinger Band here on the daily. Big giant gap, decided to come back and retrace closer to the mean here, which is not anything entirely scary, right? Kind of basically just push out and basically back testing the daily Tenkan down here so far. Can it hold, or does it have to come back to the 20 daily moving average where it got rejected? Maybe coming back in, to like around 10.5 or so to test it for as a support. Possible. Does it have to? No, it doesn't have to do anything you want it to do. But it's so far over, since towards the end of December, it's been making higher highs and higher lows. Maybe a little bit of a trend change here. You can also just see that on the 20-day moving average, right? Turning from negative sloping here to a little bit more flat here. And if you look at a weekly, we simply just got rejected here at the support band here again. We simply are just still underneath resistance, but it's becoming flatter. So I think that we have a better chance to kind of push through given time. And we just simply haven't had that Bitcoin pump yet, to really push through. We simply haven't had that market, bullishness for us to really try to push through here at this time. Mara's exact same story. It got rejected here to around support band, but it's turning flatter. I think it's gonna eventually end up pushing through that eventually, but not quite yet, right? Got rejected here at the weekly Ichimoku cloud, which is understandable, right? We spent 4 or 5 weeks trying to push back through the cloud here, just not able to. But I think that because we have some increasing volume here, it looks like we just want to kind of like keep knocking on the door here on the Ichimoku cloud. So I think that Mara still looks pretty decent to me if you are not just focusing on like the short-term kind of stuff. You did end up having a little bit of a bearish engulfing candle here on the daily, right? But so far the volume is not great. So far this last Friday's volume is pretty decent, so we'll see what happens. Right now we still have a little bit of a gap to go down, so it wouldn't surprise me if Mara ends up going down a little bit further to close the gap down. They're just kind of following their own technicals. That's what they have to do, right? Bitfarms, if you can see, Bitfarm has a little bit of a bearish engulfing candle, but it's not really doing too much because it's forming a little bit of a double bottom here. It's been trying to form, I guess it's also a double top here. It's just ranging. It's just ranging and doing absolutely nothing. And it's one of those that's been beaten down a lot. So I guess that's maybe a part of the reason why it's not going down that much further. As far as I can tell, it's still stuck in a range between two arcs, right? It's still stuck in a range between the top arc here with the blue and the orange arc here and the orange here, right? It's just stuck. It's not really doing too much. Cipher down 5%, but who cares? Like, it's just kind of still an inside candle compared to for the last week, right? It's actually like plus or minus 5% for these stocks is nothing. So I think it's just doing its own thing here on the weekly, and it's still trying to hold up on a support band, kind of like Mara, kind of like CleanSpark, getting a little bit rejected off of that, but that's okay. Now IREN is doing the same thing. It's trying to hold up on a support band here. It's down 14% today. But again, in the grand scheme of things, just look at the price action for IREN. Down 14% is really nothing for these miner stocks. I still think that the overall trend really since September, this wick over here is a little bit of a higher high, and we're just trying to find a higher low. How low does it get? Does it go all the way down to the angle over here? There's a possibility it could go underneath $10. Always a possibility, but does it have to? No. So far, we're just kind of starting the week. We'll see how the week goes. And in terms of what we're doing right now, in terms of the daily chart, you can see how price has kind of pushed up a bit against the upper Bollinger Band. Couldn't really push through the upper Bollinger Band because this is squeezing. It had to come back and retrace back to the mean, but because it's negatively sloping here with the 20-day, it's just kind of pushed down through like butter, right? But does it have to touch all the way down to the low Bollinger Band? There's a possibility it could go underneath $10 and touch the low Bollinger Band. But overall, I think this trend over here, as long as we're able to kind of stay within this range for a few more days, we can flip the 20-day moving average to a little bit more flat, and we can reclaim that to support and to continue on building a little bit more of a stronger bull trend here. In terms of Wulf, it's doing a very, very similar thing, right? Couldn't really touch the upper Bollinger Band here, but it's squeezing. 20-day moving average is still kind of negatively sloping, but you're still holding, this is also one of those, it's still holding a Bora support band. They reclaimed it with high volume last week, and we're trying to backtest it, and it's holding so far. BTBT falling underneath the Bora support band. A lot of these things are just kind of, trying to reclaim the Bora support band. That's what they're trying to do, right? Squeezing Bollinger Band daily, push up, couldn't get through, come back down, retrace back to the mean here a little bit, can go down to 3.4, and then back test it before for a bullish continuation possible. But I like the daily trend here for BTBT. Not too scared about it. CORZ, what is it doing? Gapped up, came back down, closed the gap. Right now you got a little bit of a bearish engulfing candle, but the day is still young, so we'll see what it does. In terms of weekly, nothing has changed, right? It's still bouncing on the Bora support band, so there's really not much else to get concerned about here. Riot is still considered strong to me because it's still bounced very strongly off of the bull market support band. I'm not really that concerned about Riot, to be completely honest with you. If you look at the can here, it did end up breaking into the arc over here. If we end up closing this week inside the arc, that would be the second consecutive week of closing inside the arc, which has not happened here really since like 2021. So if we end up doing that, if we end up doing that, that's actually going to be a pretty bullish indication for Riot, especially since it's just riding for our support band on the way up, right? Very positive here for HUD8. It's trying to reclaim the 0.618 here. It did that last week, close above it. Right now, we're just kind of coming back and back testing it. So in terms of looking at the daily chart here, in terms of what it's trying to do, I think it's just got this very similar story, right? It's trying to push up the Bollinger Band here, not able to push through, coming back down, retrace it a little bit. Very much a flattening 20-day moving average. I think it's going to hold just fine. I can talk about Bitdeer. I'm going to end the show here. You can see that the 20-day is flattening, right? It's got some pretty brutal retracement all the way from 27 all the way down to 16, but it's trying to retrace back to the mean. It's trying to hold tight, hold dear to the 20-day moving average. On the weekly, it still looks fine. On the weekly, all it's really trying to do is trying to have some bullish continuation here. Actually, this is one of the more bullish miners here, and it can show based on price action today because it's only down here a little bit because it already retraced a significant amount. So in terms of miners, I'm not really that concerned about it. I just kind of wanted to share my quick thoughts here with you. Take care. Have a good day. Bye.